So, panel number one is all about sponsorships, all about building communities. So, let me bring our three panelists up to join me in these lovely chairs. Isn't this the best living room? I'm going to just hang out here all week. Uh, First up, the co founder of Rockney Pickleball. Give it up for Elise Ivy. Next up, co founder of The Kitchen. Please say hi to Jason Aspes. And finally, from Allin America Line, brand partnerships guru Molly Brown. So, first of all, panelists, thanks for being here. And Jason, I got to go ladies first here. So, Elise, you got into pickleball here with a brand called Rockney. Tell us a little bit more about what was your inspiration to get going into this sport that we all adore here in this room.
Yeah, well, am I on? Yes. Okay. Thank you. First of all, it's really, really nice to be here. I'm so honored to be up here, and it's kind of a pinch me moment, especially to be up here with such brilliant minds. So thank you. So my journey is a little interesting. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I came from tennis. I came from another racket sport." I did not. In fact, it was embarrassing the first time I held a pickleball paddle, but I knew I loved it. I just had to figure out, how is this all going to work? I actually come from a media background, and I was a television host on a channel called QVC for 7 years ish, about 7 years. And I sold everything from beauty to ladders and everything in between. And what I realized when I was there is that I had a very strong passion and knack for entrepreneurship aspect of the job. So it looks like you just go on TV and you talk and you sell this product, but really what you're doing is learning so much behind the scenes. And I was learning about manufacturing, and I was learning about marketing, and I was learning about brand building and finding the differentiating factors. And at the same time that I was there at QVC, I was also finding my love of pickleball. And so I did what most people do, and I go and I buy, my first paddle set that was kind of, you know, as you're not sure if you're going to love the sport, you're playing with the indoor ball outdoors. I think a lot of us have been there. And after that, I came home and I thought, I need to do a little bit more exploration on this sport and on the equipment because I know there's got to be better equipment out there. And that's when I noticed that where I found a white space was in the idea that I could find cutting edge technology with aspirational aesthetic in the pickleball paddle world. And so I called my brother, who's a finance professional, and he's my co-founder in Rockney Pickleball, and we set off together to create that brand. And that's the short version and the beginning of Rockney Pickleball.
Love it. So, QVC in the house. Here we
That's
go.
right.
So, we're going to talk about the dichotomy of a startup and an entrepreneur versus Molly. You represent a big brand, and Holland America Line has started to embrace the sport of pickleball. How did you guys get started in this, and what can the bigger brand folks watching this learn from what your foray into our sport has become?
Thanks, Dave, and thanks everyone for coming today. I'm excited to be here. I think we've done a lot of at Holland America Line. We've done a lot of research on our guests, and our guests are multi generational. And we have the entertainment down. We have the food. When everybody goes on a cruise, they're really in tune with the food and wine and that experience of service. But we didn't really have anything that was about health and wellness and about the sport of pickleball. We had a court that was just a all-purpose sports court that people, mainly kids, would play basketball, pick up basketball games and things like that. So as we dove into the research a little bit more, have a Holland America Line is a mid-sized luxury cruise line. So our cruises are longer, and because of that, our demographic is a little bit older, and they're not. They want to play and be active in the space. And so we saw the rise of pickleball. And from Washington, we're headquartered in Seattle, and obviously that is where pickleball was born, is in Bainbridge, and we just saw it coming up and all the news and the noise about it. So our goal was really to be the cruise line known for pickleball, and so We had great discussions with the PPA to begin with, and from there it just kind of blossomed into what we have today. It's been less than a year, and it's really been an amazing journey. And um, all of our ships and all of our guests are they just have embraced it, and we've really gone all in on everything that we do.
So let's understand more about what all in means. What does that mean when you say you're all in? I want to hear it. I want to, if I didn't get motion sick, I would want to go play it, but you don't want me on one of your ships. Let's just be clear. So what does all in mean?
So within the past year, all in means that all of our ships, we have 11 ships in our fleet, feature at least one pickleball court, if not two. We also provide beginner lessons that are complimentary. We have equipment that is complimentary. We have in-room, stateroom TV content that is produced by Top Court, and they just give you tips and tricks of pickleball. We've resurfaced our courts, we've repainted them. We have pickleball paddle kits that are co-branded that we sell in our retail shops. It's all over our every marketing message that we have because there are a lot of cruise lines and other in the industry that have maybe one pickleball court here, one there, but we just wanted to go all out and know and let people know that we are you can play pickleball in front of a glacier in Alaska. You can play pickleball, in the Greek waters all over the world. And so it's very aspirational and you continue with your passion on board this ship. So it's very complimentary too to, these adventure seekers. And that's how we went all in. It's in everything we do. It's a big pillar and brand differentiator for our brand, and it's working. We've gotten over 700 million media impressions just by the association alone, which is that's just a little piece of the overall pie.
I love that. And I love the idea of all the different landscapes that you have in
Right.
pickleball being you're playing right there. It's unbelievable. So, Jason, what Molly just mentioned, I think your perspective would be great to add to this. A lot of people come up to me. I'm sure they come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to get pickleball going. I want to get this going." And they just kind of dip their toe. You kind of got to commit. And, Molly and her squad certainly has. What have you learned from the kitchen's foray into pickleball that says you can't just kind of dip your toe in because all these folks want a piece of this pie?
There's a lot of toe dippers out there. Yeah, I think that committing it's not as hard to commit now because it's here, it's happening. This, all of you are testament to that. A couple of years ago, 3 years ago, there was a lot of toe dipping because no one knew if it was going to be here or if this was just a fad or if when COVID ended that would end. But we realize now that this is here to stay, and it's powerful. It doesn't People don't let go of this. It infects them. They love it. They're addicted to it. They want, more information about it. They want to get better at playing. They want to buy more gear. They have this passion, and that's what we see as the kitchen. We're a social media company that has expanded out beyond that now. Um, but we see it every day. We're just growing like crazy, and as the sport is as well. And it's companies like yours that are investing in it and bringing it to new audiences and attracting the ones that are already in it to bring it to your core business. So it just doesn't feel like a gamble anymore at all. It feels like something you kind of have to be doing, or you're going to be left by the wayside.
You have to be doing it. That's why you're here.
That's the
Love
quote.
it.
That's the quote.
That's your quote. Pull that quote from Jason. So, Jason, I think a lot of people are interested in the community that you have built. Give us the background on, hey, speaking of going all in, where did the kitchen come from? Everyone who hasn't seen your logo with pickleballs flying out of a sink and everything else. How did that come to be? And then how has that evolved from when you started to where we are today? And if you can definitely touch on how you're deciding what you want to sponsor so that people can appreciate the decisions and choices you're making.
Yeah, so I'll take it one step back. I come from an advertising background. I ran Ogilvy and Mather for many years, lived in Asia for 12 years, ran big brands like Motorola, Coca-Cola, Intercontinental Hotel Group. And when COVID hit, I'd left that business and was kind of figuring out what was next. And COVID hit and everything went haywire. And I started playing a little bit of pickleball. My business partner in this are back there, Dane Iliff and Jared Paul. They had a music startup about concerts. And when COVID hit, that all went away. And I'd been advising them a little bit and realized There's no concerts, but you guys are great at building communities. So keep building communities. And at that time, I started playing pickleball. Jared started playing pickleball, and I said, just let's keep flexing that muscle. And he started up Pickleball Austin, which he lives in Austin. Little tiny little group. Who knew where this thing was going? This was a bit of a hobby, and all of a sudden, pickleball just boomed. And there we were, and everyone wanted more information. They wanted community. They wanted to connect, especially in this time of COVID when no one had that outlet, and pickleball was perfect. And it was this really kind of magical time for pickleball. Terrible for everyone else, right? But pickleball really just had this amazing moment. And I think without it, I don't know if it would have exploded like it has. But we've seen that it's much more. And I think you know, for us nerds up here that love pickleball the way we do, it's so much more than just this game where you hit the ball back and forth. I think that that's kind of the senior set. That's where it was when you saw it at kind of adult communities and senior living centers. But now you watch Ben Johns and Anna Lee play, and this is as athletic a sport as there is, and it's going to get better. Right? We're going to see more athletes come into this, and it's remarkable. So that gives me the belief that we're just at its infancy, right? You guys are, if you feel like you're late to the game, if anyone here feels like they're late to the game, you're not, right? We're just getting going. Uh, it's gonna just boom. We haven't even scratched the surface on. I know Dave is the voice of pickleball, but really the viewing audience hasn't really taken hold of this yet, right? But the more people that play, the more people are going to want to watch and see how the best players in the world do this. And when we start telling those narratives on the players and the personalities and the rivalries, this thing's gonna be huge. And I can't wait to be along for the ride. And hopefully, we're doing an important part as the kitchen to bring people along and do that.
Yeah, I think, I get asked a lot about how do the best players get to be the best players. And a lot of them have a tennis background, but there are a lot of Sparkies out there, 7, 8 years old, that are playing. And guess what their background's going to be? Pickleball and pickleball only. And that is going to be exciting. So I think your point is great about the fact that, sure, the train, we've thrown some coal in there and the train is going, but that train's got a really long way to go here. So, Elise, we've got big companies involved here. You're from the grassroots. How There's a lot of folks here and watching that are in similar spot as you. They want to get in. They want to pursue that entrepreneurial idea. What were your steps to decide how are you going to invest? What are you going to sponsor? I think that'll be very interesting for people to appreciate the choices and decisions that you made.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So we're entering our third year of business, and so obviously there's an evolution, right? So when you start in your first year, your sponsorships are probably going to look a lot different than your second, third, up to 10 years and whatnot, depending on your growth. So one of the things I had told Dave I wanted to touch on was for those of you that might just be starting out, how you could get creative with your sponsorships if you're not ready to just say, "Hey, here's a check." That's why we say thank you, Holland America, for giving that check so we can give equipment. But, it is interesting. I think some of the most important factors when looking for people to represent your brand, especially at the very beginning in its infancy, is looking at who they are as people, looking at their character beyond their super score, because that's going to take you a lot further. And actually, I had a quick story about one of our players that we sponsor that I'm just, it's such a touching story, but it's exactly who he is, and it's exactly why we wanted him on our team. Just recently, we were actually here in Dallas. It was about 3 weeks ago, and there were 40-mile-an-hour winds, and it was freezing. So how lucky are we right now in this beautiful weather? But we were at a tournament, and it was called Battle of the Paddles, and so it was paddle companies up against each other. And we were there because we were launching our new USA made paddle, which we're super super excited about. 13 months in the making, so I had to mention it here. And all structural components made in the USA. So very very happy about that. And that's why we were at this tournament. So while we were there launching this paddle, and we have our 4 sponsor players, we have more than 4, but we chose 4 sponsor players to come because we wanted to create that sense of community, create that sense of fun, show other sponsor players, hey, these are the kinds of fun things that we do as a Rockney team. We also created some pretty nice merchandise to go along with this paddle release. And one of the things that we did is we made these custom shoes. We thought it'd be really cute, right? We're going to have the Rockney Republic shoes, and all of our players are going to wear them to bum around in, not necessarily compete in. And the tournament's over. It was great. The guys did pretty well. The girls won the sportsmanship award, which right there, that tells me we're choosing the right people because we truly care about how our players are on the court with their own teammates and their opponents. It's actually more important to me than your duper score. And anyway, we're leaving and we're taking the shuttle back. And one of our players is there. His name is Jeff LeConte. He's a high level player. He is director of racket sports up in at his country club in upstate New York, and just an all around stand up guy. And he's wearing the shoes. And a man comes up to him and says, "Those are really cool shoes." And Jeff, instead of just saying, "Hey, thanks, man," decides to tell him why he's wearing them, explain to the man all about our brand, which, as a business owner, that's all you want in someone, right? Is to care so much that they're going to now share your brand and share the passion of your brand with a complete stranger. Tells him about them, why he's wearing them, what we've been up to. The man says, "Wow, I think I'd like to try this brand." Right there, another check mark. Jeff says, "You really like the shoes, huh?" The guy said, "Yeah, I do like them." Takes them off his feet and hands them to him. Gave him the shoes. Don't worry, he had others. He had others. He wasn't walking around the airport barefoot. But it was like that moment to me. Like Jeff told me the story later, and I was like, "Wow, man, you're a one percenter. Like nobody does stuff like that, and like we have you on our team." So that's when I knew, okay, we're choosing the right type of people. These are the people that you want to wear your name on the shirt. This is the person that you want talking about your brand to their students, to their communities when they go play, even their opponents, right? When you're playing against them. And it was interesting because I thought that's where the story would end, but it didn't, because the man who got the shoes was so blown away by this that he emailed us. And it was this trickle down effect of all of these wonderful things that happened. And it really made me stop and pause and think, what are the attributes for us that are so important that someone is going to represent our brand, especially when you're a brand new brand? And it is things like, what are you giving back to the community? What is your energy both on and off of the court? Are you a generally good human? Do you have something in your life outside of pickleball that you truly believe in that's doing good for the community? These are things we think about because we get emails every single day from players saying, "Hey, this is my rating. I'm in this tournament. Will you will you send me paddles?" Who are you? Are you nice? So I think there is a time and a place where money is going to speak, but as you're growing, find these people who have this passion, who are great people that are going to stick with you, and find the people who fell in love with your brand first and then come to you. And I think that's another big thing. Jeff played with our paddles. He enjoyed our brand. He then reached out to us, and it's worked out really nicely. So those are some of the tips I think I would say when starting out. And there's a lot of resources out there right now too for us as far as finding players on social media. You can find out a lot about somebody that way. Quick Google searches as well. But do your due diligence for sure.
Love that story. And I think the players are starting to learn this because players want the opportunity to get paid. But we as a collective need to find the players that want to be ambassadors, because talking about the brand during a commercial shoot, you're telling me to do that. Doing it on the shuttle is a whole nother thing. So I heard two things. I heard number one, finding that, and the with. You use the term with. Who's with me, not just who's collecting a check. And then secondly, the idea of the creativity. I think we can't have enough of it to differentiate ourselves across the board here. You made crazy shoes, and look what it got. Now, I don't know what was, on the whiteboard that day, but you chose crazy shoes, and now crazy shoes are in front of this entire room. So I think that's great. So thank you for those examples. So Molly, people are doing pickleball like it's non-negotiable if you don't have pickleball as part of your vacation. It's non-negotiable. How are you finding these people? How are you getting after it? And then secondly, how important is it for you to have programming to get others involved so that you can get repeat customers coming back because they had such a good experience. And pickleball, as Jason said, they're addicted to, so it's got to be in there.
Yeah, that's a really good question. We besides in all of our marketing communications, we do a ton of direct mail and email, and we have social media that we're always creating content with, like really, uh, particular pickleball content. But we have other sponsorships that I also manage, like with the University of Washington, Oregon State University. We do an Alaska cruise and travel show. So at all of these venues that we have the opportunity to do activations. And so one of the things that we've learned is that people, I mean, they love pickleball and it's a craze. And so we have this pickle pong activation now, which is like a ping pong table, but played with the pickleball. And we're also doing like consumer sweepstakes, giving away cruises where people can, play pickleball on board. So we really like are trying to cement our pillar in the ground as, um, you know, uh, pickleball is everywhere and it is part of your life and on your vacation. And so you can enjoy it on board just as much as you're enjoying it in your backyard or in an arena or anything like that. We've also hired a sports director for each of our ships. We have 11 ships. And so this sports director is the one who is organizing pickup games and tournaments and beginner lessons. I actually learned how to play pickleball on a cruise, which is kind of crazy. But it sparks people's interest. And, it's just one of the many things that you can do, and it's active and you're getting out there. So we are just trying to, enthuse pickleball in everything that we do and have fun with it through different sweepstakes and lead generations. We like to just build out partnerships where we can give pickleball the visibility that it deserves, and so that people, when they go on vacation, they know that it's more than just making memories and having great meals and service. You can be active, you can have fun. It's a family thing. So that's how we've kind of been successful on that front.
Yeah, I like that a lot, and I like the idea of the sports director because there are a lot of communities, there are a lot of clubs that have put pickleball courts in, and that is a great foundation. But you've got to have programming and all of that, or all you're going to have is people showing up to play ball. So I commend you for that because that's how you get people involved in it. And then I don't know anyone that's quit pickleball. I don't know a single soul that has ever quit. So these people are going to keep coming back.
I was going to jump in there. I always say that, and then I met a guy the other day,
I
and
need to know who this cat
I'm
is.
gonna
You
tell you,
met the quitter?
I met the guy. There's
Quitter.
one guy I found him.
We're all going to go get them, every one of you.
Yeah.
We'll get him back.
And here's the funny thing, and we asked him like, where have you been? You're not playing anymore. And he said all the signs of addiction were there, and he said dead serious. He's like, I stopped wanting to work. I was thinking about it all the time. He was like, really, like he was like kind of zoned out, telling me this, like an addict. And I was like, I respect it. All right, fair enough. But that was the one guy. So I actually, I joke all the time, like there might be some rehab centers in your future. Like honestly, if some of these, some of the venues don't work out, we can turn them into, some kind of rehab centers to get people to wean them off. My joke was that I introduced my aunt was addicted to pickleball, and I tried to introduce her to crack to wean her off, and it didn't work.
Okay, we're not going there, everybody.
I actually had a
Just testing
booth at one of the PPA tournaments, and a guy came by and he was like, "Oh my God, you really have pickleball on your ships? My wife is going to kill me because she just wants to get away from it, and now he can enjoy it on board." So that's kind of funny.
And that's the beauty of our sport and all of this. They like we love to say, well, just one more game, just one more game. I mean, that is just ingrained in all of us. We've played for 3.5 hours, and there's always one more game. Jason, how does the kitchen now? You've established yourself with the community. How many people are in the community now? You talked about the benefit of having that community during COVID. Thankfully, we're on the other side of that. What are you doing differently now? What can we learn from what you've done, and where's this going forward?
Yeah, so I mean, now we're close to 1 million people collectively across our channels. We feel like we're putting out hopefully the best content in the game. We're working hard. I mean, it doesn't just happen. You need to curate and aggregate and moderate to be able to give people a great experience. They have an opportunity to come online and see all they want to see about pickleball, and it's growing every day. People are, just they want more and more information, education, entertainment. We're trying to provide that for them. But now we're moving beyond just social media, and we're starting, in 2 weekends, we're having our first large tournament in Texas. We're giving away $25,000 to one winner, best amateur players out there. So that's something we're excited about. Have about 700 people playing in that tournament. We're moving into some retail. Have no, haven't really committed to pickleball, and they come in, they say, let's just try something, and they dip in for a second, and then if it doesn't work right away, they're like, nah, pickleball's not for us. That's never going to work, right? You really need to plant those seeds. You need to establish yourself. And I think that the pickleball community really sniffs out who's authentic and who's not. There's a ton of tennis brands that can easily activate right away and flip the switch, right? We haven't seen Nike do it yet, but sure, they could. It's all set up. But I think the pickleball audience, look at these people out here, right? When you walk down the boulevard, they're hardcore pickleball people. Everyone has their brand on their back. They wear their bag, they have their paddle. They're so passionate about what what they wear, what they play with. And so there's an opportunity for all these brands that commit to pickleball and really establish themselves as believing in it and being part of this community. I think that goes a really long way because it's an addiction. I keep coming back to it, but they love it, and you go to bed at night. If most of you, I assume, play, I go to bed every night thinking about pickleball. I'm thinking about, it's kind of a sickness in a way,
I'm
but
sick also, Jason,
yeah,
just to be clear.
but Dave's voice is in my head every night. Uh, and but in the same way, it's super healthy. It's a community, so it's all these really positive things in this kind of addictive phase. I don't know how to explain it, but it's all positives, right? Except for that one guy. But really, when a brand can tap into that, that is a home run because people become customers for life. They become passionate ambassadors. And that's what the brands that I've worked with for years dream about. And here's pickleball, this elixir that makes it all work. So you guys are all in the right place. I really believe that. You have the opportunity to tap into this at the right time. And hopefully we do it well because I think there's a very bright future for everyone.
I agree. So, Elise, as a marketer, everything Jason said is true, but it's true for everyone in this room. So, how do you latch on to not all of the things Jason said? Because if you try to be a little bit to everybody, you're usually nothing. How do you plan? How have you differentiated your brand, your paddles, your vision of where you want to take it? Because I think that specificity is very important.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. I think that's probably the most important thing right now for a paddle brand as they are multiplying like crazy. I mean, when we got in the game, I think there were, I don't know, 50, 100 paddles. Now there's over 600 registered paddle brands. So it's totally, the landscape is completely different now. So, the thing I learned at QVC was find your differentiating factor. I mean, when I tell you I sold no shortage of 100 mascaras, and I mean, they all do the same thing, right? So what are we going to talk about when we're up there? That's what you have to do with your paddle or with your brand. And so for us, our first differentiating factor with our paddles, of course, was the combination of the technology and the aesthetic, which really wasn't out there when we started. There was one or the other. There was technology, didn't look that great. There was aesthetic, looked pretty cool, wasn't approved for tournament play. We really like brought that together. That was the first way we differentiated with paddles. Right now, our big differentiator is that we took a pause from just crazy mass production like we saw everybody else doing and scrambling. And we said, we're going to sit here and we are going to figure out how to make these paddles in the United States. And we are going to make them with actual carbon that is made actually in the United States and actual structural components that are made here. So it's made, manufactured, assembled, shipped, every little bit of it inspected here. And we're going to make that another arm of our company and differentiate in that way. And that's our Rockney Republic line. We have our first paddle out now. It did take 13 months to get that paddle out. It was a total labor of love, but it was worth it, right? Because now we have great paddles that we can, you know, create tons of and send to whatever big box we need to. But we also have this really interesting curated collection that not everybody's going to be able to get because we can only make so many and they're of a certain price point. But it does give us that differentiating factor that's really fun to talk about. And also something that we're really proud of course, by giving jobs back to U.S. workers. So that's one way I think that we've differentiated on the paddle side. But then there is this whole aspect of who's on your team, right? So since this is with sponsorship, who's on your team? I think probably the best way that we've differentiated is from day one, because we were more of a grassroots startup. We weren't given just huge venture capitalist money where we could just throw money at every player and be like, okay, everybody's on the team. It wasn't like that for us. It was really curated, like who is on our team and who is going to represent us. And with that, we formed a really nice, close knit, almost, and I kind of hate saying this, I feel like every corporation I ever worked in called it a family. And I was like, but doesn't look like my family. But anyway, now we really feel that way. I mean, at this last tournament we were at as a team, we all stayed in an Airbnb together because we wanted to, because we want to be around each other. We actively take an interest in each other's lives. I know about our sponsor players' children. I know when they're succeeding. I know when they're having tough times. It's really more of this deep friendship and family with the understanding that at the end of the day, anybody who represents you is a business decision and a financial decision. So, you have to be able to kind of balance both worlds there. But I do think that having that differentiating factor with your product, very important. And then simultaneously having a different feeling, maybe a feeling of inclusivity that you don't always get with every brand, right? We're all kind of, our fabric is a little bit different, but that's something that's very important to us.
Love it. And I think going from what you're working on to hearing about what Molly's doing, different guardrails, which is perfectly fine. We're all trying to find where we fit. Molly, I want to go back to something you said. You mentioned colleges and universities. This sport was freaking made to be out there. Throw a 20 by 44 out there in the quad and let the co-eds and everybody just have fun playing it. What have you done at the couple of colleges that you mentioned? And is that something that you're going to try and do more of? Because we're seeing Stanford's putting in course. There's beautiful things across this country, and that's only going to get bigger and bigger. D1 pickleball will happen, not next week, but it's coming.
Yeah, so we we tried to, we'd love to just give everybody a taste of pickleball, because we feel once you have that taste, then you have it in your system. Once you know that you're not intimidated, that it's an easy game to pick up, to continue, and do it anywhere, basically. It just becomes like second nature. So we'd like to see more involvement on the community level. I know that a lot of the states and places that we all live, there's a lack of courts, and there's a big, initiative right now is to build up those courts. And I've spoken to a couple people here that are actually, I mean, it's just who's going to build the biggest, fastest, because there's a demand, right? A huge demand, and there is just not enough places to play. So, from a community level, we plan to get more involved in all of our home ports that we operate out of. That includes like San Diego, Fort Lauderdale, New York, LA, and just really try to empower, and from the guerrilla marketing, and just like the root of the sport, try to get people involved, try to help out with providing equipment, branded. paddles and kits to empower people to give it a shot, and then also just reinforce the fact that you can play it anywhere in the world, including with your family or on your own with your significant other on our ship. So just trying to spread the word and try to empower people to try it, to get to and to reinforce the fact that um, you it's so accessible and it's so easy to do, and a lot of times it's even free. And a lot of our schools in Washington, they teach from an elementary. It's a part of the class gym curriculum, so it's in the roots, at least in our state, and I think that it's becoming more and more so throughout. And that's how we're kind of trying to make a difference and trying to work in that way.
Yeah, and I think as you make decisions like that, you're playing off of what we talked about, which is the authenticity that all the folks on Pickleball Boulevard out here are seeing. They're seeing who's with me, who's beside me. I want to play. Look at what Holland America Line did. They put in courts. They're not just writing a check and throwing a commercial on a PPA broadcast. So I think that's very important to touch into the addiction that Jason's been talking about. So Jason, where's this going? Where's sponsorship of this sport going?
Hopefully getting bigger. I mean, I just think there's more people coming, and there's not the space isn't necessarily growing exponentially until we see the ESPNs or CBSs or whoever that broadcaster is that comes in, commits, and does it incredibly well. And I know Pickleball TV just launched this week. That's fantastic. That's a joint venture with the Tennis Channel. So we're starting to see, right? Once the production gets better, we're going to start seeing that happen. Social media is blown up. I mean, when we got in the game, it was nascent. There was no one out there talking about pickleball. Uh, and we got in at the right time. And I think hopefully we were the right people to really steward that and take it seriously and help educate and entertain. Luckily, Jared and Dane back there are like, they're ninjas at social media, and it's not easy, right? Like all these brands that try to get in, it's very tricky. It's hard to do it well. You got to be creating a ton of content that's relevant. You got to be responding and moderating, and it's a whole thing. So
Let me jump in there so that people appreciate what you mean by relevant, because I think a lot of folks are like, I got my phone out and I'm walking down Pickleball Boulevard or I'm at the courts. Yawn. So what's relevant? What's
yeah,
getting attention, and how can sponsors tie into that even
absolutely.
more importantly?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example of the kind of things we do. So we are at almost every event. Dave sees us all the time. The players see us behind, taking videos. So we're always getting content. And I'll use this as an example. Major League Pickleball, at the beginning of this year, we had a clip from Annalie Waters that really went viral, right? It has over 60 million views now. That's kind of unheard of in pickleball, right? That's being seen by new audiences everywhere. The algorithm has taken that and splashed it around the world, and exposed people that never heard of pickleball to this game, which is great because right now we're not getting that kind of reach. And then people come in, they see, what is this game? What is pickleball? They start, seeing that. They come into the kitchen and they start to learn about it. And when I say relevance, it's being witty, meme worthy, uh, education. How do we onboard people? How do we explain to them what this game is, and being able to come in at whatever level you're at? If you're a 5-0 player, I want to get better and hear Ben Johns talk about the nuance of the left side player versus the right side player. Or it might be, what's the rules? How do we keep score? So we need to have an onboarding for every level out there. And so we're constantly trying to find those pieces of content, writing them well, and put them together in a way that people can find it and engage with it and hopefully share it. That's the goal.
So how does a sponsor tap into the content?
So yeah, I mean, my email is jason@kitchenpickle.com.
Here we go.
No, I mean we have opportunities all across the way, right? We have things like kitchen conversations where we have long, in-depth conversations with players and key influencers. Connor Pardo, who's here, we've had him on 3 times, and we talk about whatever's happening, at that moment. We have shorter form stuff, morning minutes, which are tips from pros talking about education and strategies. We have, you name it across the board. Our Instagram is 350,000 people, we can put brands there and get you in front of an entirely different audience. And I think that we segment out our channels are different people in different places. TikTok is very different than Facebook. We have probably a couple 100,000 people on Facebook, which represent the people that are here. It's a little bit older crowd. And I think that when you have a nationals, it skews a little older than last week with MLP, which felt a little younger. And so, across the board, we know where these people are, and depending on who your audience is, whatever you're sponsoring and your product might be, we can slot you into those places to be most effective.
So I'll give each of you last call here. Molly, where are you going with Pickle here, and what's next? What's coming down the beautiful oceans that you
Love the sea.
yes.
For us, I really appreciate being with and meeting other sponsors. I think there's a lot there where we could do collaborations. Like for example, we've had some discussions with Best Day Brewing. Do we build a pickleball court on our private island? Do we do something that is?
Oh, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Private. Oh, okay.
You have a private
I
island too?
know.
Yeah.
I know. That was very rude moderation by me there, but do tell private island.
Oh, it's a beautiful private island in the Bahamas called Half Moon Key. It's about 3 miles wide with baby powder, sand, and blue ocean. And so it's
We've all just RSVP'd, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah.
We're all coming
Thank you.
as a group.
Or is it a stunt? Like, do we have a pickleball court on a glacier in Antarctica? Really trying to like create buzz around the sport and the affiliation. And then we have we've done $1 million investment, capital investment on all of our ships to make sure that our courts are top, that our equipment is really good. So we'd love to host some pickleball pros on our ships and maybe even a tournament. And I just think that the world is our oyster right now. We're always open to collaborations and thinking outside of the box. It's fun because it's for me, pickleball is it's almost like a startup, and we're just at the beginning, right? And now we're seeing it explode, and there's not a lot of rules and regulations surrounding it, so it's really anything can happen, and you just have to use your imagination um, to bring it to life in fabulous ways.
Yeah, and I love this idea of collaborating. I think, when I was leading the brands, I talked about Dr. Pepper and Pizza Hut. You're looking for who's the right partner, who do I want my brand to be next to? And we haven't seen a lot of that in pickleball outside of the endemic. The outside, like you guys, I think is a huge opportunity for everybody that represents brands and has similar consumers that can say, hey, how do we get yours and mine? And that is, the 1 + 1 = 1,000 when we start doing that. And then to Jason's point earlier, different brands, bigger brands, putting the sport in a different spot. That's big. Jason, last call for you.
I think, as Dave just mentioned, partnerships and co-brands and things like that. I think it's wide open. This is a nice space right now, right? It might get a little bit more cutthroat as everyone's building out their brands and their spaces. But right now, it's a kind of magical time. It's a lot like it is on the courts out there. People are willing to work with anybody. They're happy to tell you to come on in and play. And it feels a little bit like I always equate it to pick up basketball. You can show up at a court anytime. That's kind of how it is in pickleball. You can show up right now if you're authentic, if you mean it, if you're willing to invest and work hard. Everyone will embrace you and work with you and say, come on in and let's play. So I think, take advantage of that right now because the door's not going to be open forever. At some point, it does get crowded, and this is the time. So you guys are all in the right place, and if we can help at the kitchen, come and talk to me. Always open for those conversations.
And we're having those meetings on the private island, just to be clear.
100%. 100%.
Yes.
I mean, if I'm going to talk about how important it is to collaborate, let's freaking do it here, right?
Also, I wanted to see what kind of person Dave was. Dave, I like those shoes.
Thank you. Thank you. That's the way it goes. All right, Elise. I'm not taking.
Now we know.
I'm not taking that.
1%er.
Elise.
Well, all of
Oh.
okay. Well, I'm bringing the palm paddle to the island because we created a palm paddle for Saks Fifth Avenue, so we'll bring that to the island. I think I'm right on board with the collaborations. We love to collaborate. We love like-minded people. We love, I love high energy, and we find that when we collaborate with people, it ends up being a really lovely relationship that usually goes beyond the collaboration. So I know that we have a lot of that in our future. Of course, as I mentioned before, we're really filling out our product line right now, which we're excited about. But on a side that's a little bit more soulful, I think, than business and numbers sense, is we are really starting a strong philanthropic front as of this coming year. So we really sat down in the last couple months and thought about 3 pillars that are really important to us this year. And our philanthropy aspect is going to be much bigger coming in the future. So right now, we kind of dabble with little philanthropies, but I think we're going to get pretty serious about it. So that's, I think, what I'm most looking forward to this year.
Ladies and gentlemen, Molly Brown, Jason Apps, Elise Ivy. Thank you guys so much. That was an awesome start to the day. You may put your mics on your chair and head to your right. Thank you very much, you guys. That was an awesome start to the day right there.